Now the infill, we're going to go from the front of the chimney breast to the back wall. Now when we were cross-lining, we had 4 individual bits going from the ceiling down to the floor. This time it's just going to be the one piece because it's a vertical drop. And again, I've trimmed this more or less to fit before I try and hang it. Because this is a 35 centimetre gap. The paper is 53. I don't want 20 odd centimetres of paper flapping around. And the cuts, I've also taken off the edge I'm going to trim anyway on the internal corner. That way, the edge I'm going to have down here on the outside is the machined edge from the factory, so it will be much straighter. So, as always, work the paper down just a few inches, okay, and let it drop. This time I am using the front of the wall, okay, as my upright. Not often I do that. And you can see I've just started a few millimetres in, no more than 5. I need the overlap, but I can't have this paper, as previously shown, poking past the front, otherwise it catches. Right, so we make sure the paper is just behind the front edge, and then brush back into the corner, contact with the ceiling edge, poke the paper in, and working my way down using my hand just to support the paper, and then the brush to remove the air bubbles. Now we do have a socket here, or representation of a socket at least, just about there. So we'll just discuss the technique about cutting around the socket. We can loosen these to allow us to tuck the paper behind. Don't take the sockets off though. We are not electricians, we are decorators. All right. Now this particular one is fixed to the wall. You can see I've come down and I'm forming the crease here along the back edge of the socket. And we can see where the corners are. So can't really do an awful lot more until I've cut around the socket. Do not be tempted to get your knife, all right, and your scraper and do this. You just run the risk of putting a great big cross on the customer's socket, and they won't thank you for that. So all we may need the knife for is just to get a little split, and I'm pulling away from the socket here, just to form a small hole. The end of the shears will do the same. We've just used a knife, so I can now put the shears behind there, and my top corner, I can mark it with a pencil, or I can use a crease. And up I cut to the top corner, from the centre to the corner, and you can see the wood chip paper or the wood ingrain paper does try and resist. Now I go back from the other direction. All right, just for the camera, let's stick a pencil line on there. So this is the back of the socket, and that is the corner. I don't want to cut any further than that. So I can peel this away. Why struggle? Right, now then, what I should have is the paper now sitting neatly in the top edge, okay? You can just see it starting to open. So just trace down, and we can just mark the edge here, and it's that corner I'm after. And again, let's just peel this away. Trying to keep stuff tight to the wall when you're using shears, it's making hard work for yourself. So just pull away slightly, and there we go. We're now starting to go around just the back edge. So again, you can use the creases or just use a pencil mark. Now then, what we'll have are 4 triangular shaped bits sticking out from the wall in a second. All right, so let's just push those back. get the paper against the wall. And we just check that it's laying nice and flat, and it is. Now we need to work quite quickly, right? So that is now laying flat, so we can put our final marks. Again, crease or pencil, just around the outside. Make sure that's under there and it's a nice right angle. Now, rather than try and cut tight to the wall, I just gently lift this away, and you can see coming into view now all these nice crisp pencil lines. So now it's just a case of cutting along. Into the corners. And as always, you can hear the wood chip not cooperating. There we go. And again, nice and gently push that round. Here we have now neatly cut, laying nice and flat around the socket. Smooth down, okay, just to check, make sure it's laying flat. Then again, with the wood chip, the crease can be followed. It is a little harder, so nothing wrong with a gently placed pencil line. Right. All the way up if necessary, or just use the crease. And again, peel the paper away from the wall, but be gentle about it. We don't want to stretch the paper. Okay, so that's the bottom sorted, and then just work our way up the edge of the paper. Again, it's always worth just pulling the paper away from the wall slightly. It makes it so much easier. Right, by way of demonstration, if I just try and trim, keeping it tight to the wall, again, it's just making it hard for myself. So let's just pull it away slightly, and we can just go all the way to the top, following that line. And then back into the corner, and you can see where we've come round underneath, where we get the overlap because we've come into an internal corner. That is virtually invisible, and by the time that has been painted, that will disappear and the joint will be no more. And I'll just continue that all the way to the top, and then as usual with the sponge and clean water, wipe down the joints, carefully wipe down the socket, bearing in mind it's electricity, worth turning off the power and only using a damp sponge. You don't want shed loads of water going behind the sockets or switches. And so that is how you would get round a socket.